Welcome to Module 11, and we're going to turn our attention to forms in this particular module. We only have one form in our application right now, but at some point we're going to want our users to be able to log in, which needs a form. Registration will need a form. Editing a user's profile will need a form. And if we continue to use forms the way that we looked at earlier, this means writing quite a lot of code for each individual field that we create inside all of our forms. So what we're going to take a look at in this particular module is we're going to take a look at forms, and specifically we're going to add a package called React Final Form in order to help us build reusable components that we can use inside the forms that we create in our application. Now this will speed up our development, and by using a package such as this, it really helps with validation as well, because all of the change handler, the blur handler, to identify if a field has been touched before we validate it, all of that comes when we use a package such as React Final Form. Now this is not the only package out there to deal with forms in React. There are several, and there's no winner in terms of the community and settling on one specific form package, and this is the sort of thing that can really lead to decision fatigue. Trying to find a forms package that does exactly what you want is normally impossible, and you normally have to make some sort of sacrifice or use some sort of workaround to get it to do what you need it to do for your application. And React Final Form is the one that came closest to fulfilling the needs of this particular application, and that's why it's being used. Also with React Final Form, we can validate our forms with a package called Revalidate, which makes validation in our forms incredibly easy. Now, validating our client-side code is not as important as validating our code on the server, because there's always ways to get around the validation that we add to our client-side code. But it is a nice to have, and it does prevent our application in normal usage from sending bad data up to our server. So it's something that we should include. But if we forget to include it, not that we will, it's not a deal breaker, because our server is always going to validate the data that we're sending up there anyway. So let's just take a look at a before and after of what we've got now compared to what we're going to have. And at the moment we've just got a form with simple text fields that doesn't do any validation. It allows us to attempt to send up bad data. We've got we've got a date picker that's not going to work cross-browser. And we'll also be adding a date picker into our application as well during this particular section. And what we're going to get to is a form with fields that can be validated against. We're going to prevent our form from being submitted to the server until it meets our validation requirements. We've got a date widget and a time picking widget as well. And all of these fields that we're creating here are reusable components that we can use again and again in other forms that we create in our application. So this is what we're aiming for, and let's get started building this.